Welcome to today's video. My name is Erica Gilliam and I'm really happy to have you here. Today I am painting some new spreads in my bullet journal. I thought that I would share a little bit about some of the lessons that I learned bullet journaling over the last few years. It's really interesting because I have not consistently bullet journaled ever. I will bullet journal for a little while and then I'll stop using it, and then I'll bullet journal for a little while and then stop using it again. And I think I've discovered some of the reasons why and some of the reasons that it hasn't always worked for me. And so I thought it would be kind of fun just to talk about some of the things that I've learned and that I will be doing differently with my bullet journal moving forward. So the first thing that I have learned while bullet journaling is it doesn't have to look any one way. Oftentimes when you see these bullet journal videos or you look for posts online, the journals always follow a relatively similar system. Typically they use the actual official bullet journal system, but they almost always are basically planners in a journal, or at least that's what they are presented when they are presented aesthetically. And what I would always do in the past is I would set up these spreads with these calendar pages and all the dates on it and whatever, and I wouldn't use it. I would just waste so much time not using my journal. And what I realized is my journal doesn't have to look that way. I don't have to use it like a calendar. I actually have a calendar for that. I find that it's too much work for me. Like, the bullet journal is a lot of work for something that I don't use often enough. One of the things that I'm going to be doing moving forward is kind of taking some of the pressure off for specifically how I'm supposed to use my bullet journal. I'm not going to require myself to keep a calendar in my journal. Instead, I want to use it to keep track of some tasks and to actually journal. So, I think moving forward, it's going to be a little bit of like a hybrid journal spreads, mind maps, art, learning things, so like notes, and my task list for most days. I won't use it every day, let's be real here, but a lot of days to be able to do that. So creating something that is more open-ended but still aesthetically pleasing is kind of where I'm going with it. So it doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be functional. And I think that's the whole heart behind bullet journaling as a whole. It's just presented as it should be a calendar, and I think that that's silly because I don't use a calendar that way. I do have an actual planner, and I do use it to plan out projects for the future, but I find that I don't return to it all the time. So, an actual calendar helps me plan ahead. My bullet journal needs to be more like in the moment. Another lesson that I have learned about keeping a bullet journal over the last few years is that it doesn't have to be seasonal. I know this sounds really kind of silly, but a lot of times, and this is something that always bothered me, but I never really realized how much it kind of stopped me from using my bullet journal, was feeling like it had to be seasonal, or that what I created had to be seasonal. So for instance, like if my design in the fall had to be fall themed, or Christmas had to be Christmas themed, or spring had to be spring themed. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter at all. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I can do spring themed in December if I want. That's not spring for me. That's dead of winter, but I could do it. I think the biggest thing is taking away the pressure. The whole point of bullet journaling and creating it yourself is that you can control how it looks and how it feels. And I have spent so much of my adult life feeling like, oh, I really want to be free. I want to make the things I want to make. And then I put boundaries on myself, like, oh, I want to make the things I want to make, and this is what other people do, so I should do that too. But this. And I think I'm learning that it doesn't matter how other people do it. I have to find the system that works right for me and the reason I love it. I love bullet journaling because I can be really, really creative in the midst of also practical. That to me is amazing. I love to flip through my journal and have these beautiful spreads and these gorgeous paintings that just bring me so much joy mixed in with my to-do list. And I think that sometimes I lose sight of that, of my reason for it. And so, for your journal, finding your reason for it. What about it makes sense to you? And what system is best for you? Do you like a more minimal approach? Do you want it filled with art and stickers and all these fun little details? What is your aesthetic? What is your feeling? What gives you joy when you open up your journal? So I think that's another lesson that I've learned, is just to stop limiting myself and stop feeling like it has to compare to everybody else's journals. Another thing that I have learned is it's okay to take breaks from it. And I think that goes for any kind of system, any kind of planning system. Depending on your needs at the time, your usage of something might change. We're cyclic beings. As the seasons change, our needs will change with them. And not just the physical seasons, but our own personal seasons. Sometimes we might need more planning than others. Right now, I'm in the middle of a very creative, heavy season. There's lots of inspiration. I'm making shit happen. It's great. And right now, in the midst of all these ideas and making stuff happen, I need a deeper planning system. I need a lot of to-do lists and to use the calendar to think through projects in advance. But there are also times where I'm not as creative, where I'm not constantly flowing with ideas, and instead it's a lot more of a downtime for me. And during those seasons, I don't necessarily need a planner. Maybe those are better seasons for keeping a journal, or maybe I don't have to-do lists, or I have a master to-do list that I keep up with, but it's not at all these little things. I think that just recognizing that your planning needs might change depending on the season you're in is massively beneficial to the way that you might use your bullet journal, because I think it should change. And I think in the past, I've thought every single month needed the same things. It needed a calendar overview and goals and trackers and all this stuff. And while that's beneficial and great, trackers are wonderful. I love to look back on trackers. The reality is that might not make sense in every single season. That might not make sense in all aspects of your life. Sometimes I'm too busy to keep a tracker. And sometimes I'm so not busy, I don't even check my journal. So it's finding the middle ground. It's not expecting yourself to constantly use it the same way, and instead leaving it open-ended for whatever it's supposed to be at that time. And I think that as I move forward with bullet journaling, I've taken a long break from it, and just recently am beginning to return to bullet journaling. I think that's where I'm going to focus it, is making it beautiful, doing these paintings based on how I'm feeling in the time and the things that are inspiring me, because I love painting in my journal. It's one of the things that brings me so much joy. And filling the pages with these paintings, but also not deciding beforehand what it will be. Instead, just leaving it with the space to become what it is, and giving myself the space to take notes, to learn about things. One of the things I love about these moon spread pages that I've done is I love to go and look at the notes and remind myself how I can use the moon phases. And I want to make more of these for different subjects and be able to look at the different subjects and the different things that I've learned along the way, and being able to identify and recognize those details. So just letting my journal be what it is, giving it space to be what it needs to be at that time, and allowing myself to kind of create based on where I'm at instead of based on what other people are doing. So to wrap all this up with a nice little cohesive bow, I think the reality of what I've learned with bullet journaling over the last couple years of using it is that I have to stop thinking it has to look one way and start allowing it to look however it looks, and to be okay with what it's going to look like in the future, and that I'm going to use it differently based on the season I am in. And I encourage that for you too, using your journal to your advantage instead of constantly comparing and feeling like your journal has to be something that it's not. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you liked these paintings. This one was really, really fun to do. I loved being able to kind of try some new imagery and try to create the details in a different way than I have in the past. And I think it turned out beautifully. So thank you so much for joining me. If you don't already, you can follow me on all social media at The Sleepy Pine. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I will be putting out a lot more bullet journal videos and other art related videos. I post most on Instagram and TikTok, so make sure that you follow me over on those, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye.